The views or opinions expressed on Ann Arbor Inclusive do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the City of Ann Arbor and the Commission on Disability Issues. For more information about the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues, please visit a2gov.org/disability resources.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on Ann Arbor Inclusive, a program of the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues. I'm your host, Tom Holtland. When I asked today's guest if he had to sum up his life and career with one theme, what would it be? Without hesitation, he answered, succeeding in spite of blindness. I thought it sounded like a good title for a biography. As I talked with him further and learned about his storied career with a visual impairment, I very quickly learned why and how he came up with this theme. He not only succeeded, he did it methodically and masterfully. Starting with his education as a young boy with special needs, his life has come full circle and then some. He shared with me the cornerstone of success as a person without sight. He mastered communication, mobility, and independent living skills, and the rest, as they say, was his history. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Carroll Jackson. Carroll, welcome to Ann Arbor Inclusive.
Thank you very much.
Let's start right at the beginning. When did you become visually impaired, and what was the cause of it?
Well, I was playing cowboys and Indians in the 3rd grade. And one of my friends forgot the rules, and he shot his bow and arrow. And as a result, I had a detached retina in the left eye. Never regained sight in that eye. I was nearsighted. Thank goodness I had thick glasses that kept the arrow from penetrating, but I lost the vision in that eye. 4 years later, the same group of guys were playing cowboys and Indians. This time I was on the Indian side, and I jumped the ravine on horseback and detached the retina in the other eye.
Wow.
So my mother always said it didn't make any difference whether I was the cowboy or the Indian. I lost going either way.
Right.
But from that beginning, obviously being in the public schools, they had limited resources or experience. I was the only visually impaired student. They got me a big magnifier that really wasn't very helpful.
Yeah.
So I struggled, and when I went for a follow-up exam, my doctor said, I have to tell you that you're now legally blind.
Yeah.
It's never going to get better.
And what age?
Well, this was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, so, and you could lose it very quickly because your retinas are very fragile.
Okay.
And he said, 2 weeks ago, he says, I was up at the Iowa Braille and Sight Saving School, and they got a school with kids just like you. And I'd never heard of that.
Yeah,
My parents had never heard of that.
Yeah.
So I insisted that we go on the way home. It wasn't that far off our path.
Yeah, to check it out.
And we checked it out, had a quick tour, and when I saw kids doing things that they wouldn't let me do in the public school, like in the shop, in the public school they'd let me sand with sandpaper. When I went to gym class, they'd let me keep score. And I saw blind kids in the workshop running the equipment.
Yeah.
And then I saw the indoor pool. I said, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So I started then in the 8th grade and began to learn the special skills that really made education and success possible.
Well, back to you mentioned your parents.
Yes.
I'm curious how your family members dealt with your vision loss.
Well, my mother was...
When it happens to you, it happens to the family.
Oh, yes. My mother was quite devastated by it. My dad, on the other hand, was one of those guys that, well, we got to figure out a way to get it done. Yeah. And he says, that's your responsibility. You'll have to figure out a way to get it done. He says, I don't know how it'll happen, but it's your responsibility. And I always remember that. But he included me. He was a photographer, so I was in the darkroom with him, dipping prints and chemicals and doing that kind of stuff. He would take me on wedding shoots, with my little bow tie, and I had enough vision that I could get around just fine. And he'd say, okay, go get the groom, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And he taught me how to meet people. He says, when you meet somebody, look them in the eye, give them a big smile, and be sincere about it. Get your hand out. Hi, my name is so-and-so. And he says, then remember their name. Okay?
Nice.
So he taught me those social skills.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out a way to get it done.
And did your mom adjust?
She did after a while.
Yeah.
You know, she was very against me going away, and I remember saying, but Carol, all of those kids were blind. I said, yeah, just like me.
So
just
am I.
Just like my doctor said, just like me.
Yeah.
And I got there, and immediately, they started me on the right path. They got me into orientation mobility in the 8th grade.
You want to explain what that is?
That's learning how to use a white cane. And they put me under blindfold because they said, well, chances are you're going to lose it quick, so you need to learn to travel without any vision. And so I did, and successfully got through that. They put us into touch typing.
Okay.
Because they impressed on us the 2 big things that affect people with blindness are mobility skills and communication skills.
And we have to remember the day and age of when you're talking about right now with the touch typing.
This is 1962.
Right.
There was a manual typewriter.
Yes.
Yes.
Not a lot of technology yet.
No way to proof it until somebody looked at it.
Yeah.
And if they said, oh, by the way, there's a mistake up in paragraph 1, you start it over.
Right. So that school was 8th grade through senior year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How did that, as a whole, how did that affect your life?
Well, my mother insisted I come home the first year every other weekend.
Okay.
And when I saw what was going on at the school and all the activities and events, I decided, no, I'll come home at Thanksgiving and at Christmas and at Easter and for summer.
It was like you were already in college.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But so many activities that were, they wouldn't let me wrestle because of my fragile retinas.
Yeah.
But they had too much fun on those trips, so I volunteered to be the manager.
All right.
So I did the laundry and sorted all the stuff, and so I could go on the trips as well.
Yeah.
I was the only student at the school that the coach would say, hey, there's a swim meet next weekend, you want to go? Because I was a competitive swimmer.
Okay.
And so I would go and compete against sighted kids. And you got to figure, you're between those lanes,
yeah,
you're good. The only thing that I ask is that would somebody put, when I'm doing the backstroke, when I can't see those flags up above, will somebody put their hand down so I don't bang my head on the side of the pool?
Sure.
But it was a tremendous experience.
Yeah, I'm curious, how did you stay in the lane, even with freestyle?
There are ropes with floats.
Sure, and you could see that.
Oh, you can feel those.
Okay,
yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
The other things at the school that were so incredibly valuable was we always had the opportunity to do part-time jobs.
Okay.
So I had jobs on campus where I would take food from the main dining room over to the cottage and serve the little kids, dish up their food and so on, and work on table manners with them.
Yeah.
So very early, I was working with little kids.
You were mentoring.
I was mentoring. And I think that's one of those reasons that it was so natural for me to go into education and continue working with kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So what unique experiences at the School for the Blind did you have that helped prepare you for your eventual success?
Well, the availability of materials. They had the materials that were appropriate. They had large print, they had small print, and I couldn't handle the large print because now I could only see about 3 words at a time.
Wow.
But if I could pull the book up close, and they wouldn't let me do that in public school. No, you can't strain your eyes.
Yeah.
But if I could pull them up close, now I could see 6 or 8 words at a time.
Is that what's called tunnel vision?
Tunnel vision, exactly.
Can you explain that term?
Sure. It's a spot of vision. My vision was 20/40 distance. We know that. 20/20 is normal. Mine was 20/40, so I had half the normal distance.
Yeah.
But I was looking through a 16-degree field of vision. So it's like looking through a straw.
As compared to what field of vision?
About 190 degrees.
Wow.
If you've got binocular vision.
Yeah.
So people actually see a little bit out on the outside edge. It's not clear, it's motion.
Yeah.
And all of that is gone. So I always told people, don't throw anything at me because I won't see it coming.
Yeah.
But I could walk down the sidewalk and see a shiny dime and bend over, pick it up, and then walk into a tree. Because I didn't have any field.
So when did the tunnel vision go and you were completely blind?
Oh, that stayed with me all the way through high school, and then all the way through college and well into my career.
Wow.
And then, of course, age began to catch up with me. So I had, things like macular degeneration, cataracts, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so eventually, and it's essentially been gone. All of the light perception's now been gone for about 18 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your higher education.
Ah, yes.
And the challenges you
Oh, yes.
you faced there.
After graduating from high school, I really loved working in the shop. I wanted to be an engineer, and I couldn't find any college that would accept me in
Really?
that program.
Because of your
Well,
blindness.
they just didn't think that with my limited vision I'd be able to handle it. But I found a small college, and they had industrial technology education. That's shop for people who know about that.
Okay.
And I have to admit that I just missed that blank on the form that asked, do you have any disabilities? I just didn't see it.
Right.
So I put nothing in there, and I got accepted.
Good move.
And I was about 3 weeks into the semester, and the professor said, we need to talk. And he says, you're really safe out there. And he says, I really appreciate it. He says, but you have some vision problems, don't you? And he says, tell me about that. I said, well, I'm legally blind. And he says, oh, my goodness.
Wow. And what year is this?
Oh, this was in about 69.
Okay.
Yeah. So finished my undergraduate work in 3 years, and I did get married as well.
Okay.
Okay.
During undergraduate?
During undergraduate.
Okay.
And I have to admit that was one of the best decisions that I made as well.
Great.
How
How old were you when you got married?
Oh gosh, I was 19.
Yeah, I was going to say that had to be
yeah,
young.
Yeah. But we met at the School for the Blind. Now, she
Okay.
was not a student, but her parents worked there as house parents.
Uh-huh.
And I came into the junior high boys' dorm one day, and I heard people playing ping pong, and I said, nobody here can see well enough to do that. And I went down, and there's 2 girls in the basement playing ping pong. So that's the first time we met.
And at that time you could see
I could.
with the tunnel
I
vision.
could. I could.
And you're still with that
I
person
am,
you saw.
where it's now 50 years. Yeah,
Wow.
we just celebrated our 50th anniversary.
Congratulations.
But she was a great resource when I needed somebody to read something.
Yeah.
Getting into college, obviously we had access to recorded materials, but
Okay.
it meant you had to get your textbooks early, send them off to be recorded or brailled,
Okay.
and it was just awful.
Yeah.
So I started hiring people. The first day of class, I would say, hey, I need readers. I'll pay minimum wage. Here's where we'll do it in the library. And so I would go through 6 or 8, readers every semester.
Wow.
Yeah. There was one course
That's a good job.
that the professor discouraged me. He says, no, I said, I don't really think we're going to read a Shakespeare play every week, and I don't think you'll be able to keep up.
Right.
And I said, well, I've got 3 weeks to give it a shot, and then I could drop out without a penalty.
Yeah.
And what I didn't tell him was that I had already looked at the syllabus, and I knew the plays, and I knew I could get talking books
Sure.
that weren't just somebody reading the play, it was actors acting the plays.
That's way
So
more interesting.
I could listen to those 3 times before each class.
Yeah.
And so I was the one that kept answering questions,
Right.
and I got an A out of that course.
Now, after your undergraduate, you went on to,
Went on to teaching.
yeah,
I actually taught industrial technology in a public school.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I said how desperate that school had to be to hire a legally blind shop teacher.
right.
But in the daytime, I was fine. But I taught auto mechanics, I taught welding, I taught woodworking,
Wow.
photography, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then I decided that I really wanted to go in a different direction. So I reached out and got a scholarship offer from The Ohio State University.
All right.
You have to understand that there were very few universities in the country that offered master's degrees in education of the blind and visually impaired.
Got it.
So I went there and was working my way through that and was introduced to somebody in the Department of Industrial Technology
Okay. At
at
OSU.
Ohio State.
Uh-huh.
And they had a big federal grant to adapt curriculum for pre-vocational and vocational courses so that disabled kids could take those courses.
Okay.
and nobody was applying for that money because they didn't want handicapped kids in the shop classes or home ec classes.
Right.
And so
Too much of a risk?
That's what they were afraid of.
Yeah.
So I started consulting with them and helping them adapt curriculum. And the guy that led that, he said, when do you get your degree? And I told him, and he says, good. He says, I've got a teaching associate degree, full ride scholarship, and it pays twice as much as you had on your research associateship position.
Wow.
And you teach 2 classes. So I taught hands-on activities for elementary teachers to reinforce academics, and I taught a occupational therapy course, using hands-on activity for physical therapy.
Right.
And it was fabulous. It was such great fun.
Yeah.
One of the courses that I had to take was facility evaluation and design.
Okay. What was that?
Well, if you're going to go into industrial technology, what's the laboratory? What equipment?
Sure.
How's it arranged? Is
Right.
it safe? And I'd been out to the school for the blind, and they had some problems. So I went to the superintendent and said, hey, I'm going to take this class. Is it okay if I come in and do an evaluation? He said, oh, yeah, go ahead. Well, I gave him
A book?
the A plus, okay,
Oh, good.
results from that course,
Yeah.
and he offered me a job.
Nice work.
And it was such a great boost in income
Yeah.
that I dropped out of the university as a full-time student,
Uh-huh.
continued to take part-time courses,
Okay.
but established a program that was based on career education.
Uh-huh.
So we ended up with the money that I found from the federal grant, about $360,000, and back then that was a lot of money. I could hire a master's
It's
degree.
still a good amount.
I could hire a master's degree graduate for about $25,000 plus fringes. So he didn't get 1 vocational teacher, he got 3, plus a second home ec teacher,
Wow.
and a lot of equipment. We were able to go in and redesign one of the vacant dormitories into an honors apartment. So now we could move 4 boys in there, each had their own bedroom.
Yeah.
They shared the kitchen and the living and the laundry facilities. That second home ec teacher went on duty at 4 o'clock and was responsible for those 4 students.
Teaching all those skills.
Teaching them those skills.
Home skills.
Shopping skills, food preparation skills, all that stuff. Then we'd put 4 girls in for a month, and we'd alternate back and forth.
Got you, yeah.
And I have to tell you, I overheard a couple of my boys talking, and he says, I hear you're going back into the honors apartment. He says, yeah. He says, how did you do that? He says, well, you don't want to be too good the first time, and they let you go back.
Oh, wow.
And I went, and he goes, oh, Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry.
He didn't see you there.
No, he didn't see me there.
Yeah.
But that was an incredible time because
Yeah.
we were working with kids. We were able to get the first talking computers
Okay.
that the state had ever spent money on.
Wow.
And in fact, the controller called me and he says, the superintendent is really upset you spent money on those game machines.
Yeah. Game.
And I said, game machines? I didn't buy any game. He says, those Apple IIs are only good for playing games. And he can't understand how you think you can justify that when the kids can't even see the TV screens. I said, well, number one, they're computers, and they're not TV screens, they're monitors.
Right.
And they talk.
Yeah.
And we're teaching word processing and,
You're educating.
yes,
Yeah.
database development, and we're teaching medical transcription.
Wow.
And he says, what are those things?
Yeah.
So I invited them out to see it, and I never had trouble getting money for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they saw the success that the technology was making possible.
Yeah.
Back then, we bought 4 talking calculators, $400 a piece.
Wow.
I mean, but oh, what a difference it made.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, of course, that technology is very reasonable. It's in your talking phones and so on
Yeah.
and so forth.
So tell me, we have about 10 minutes
Okay.
left. How and why did you make that transition from education to the nonprofit rehab?
Yes. The simple answer is mainstreaming. When mainstreaming hit, kids were being stripped out of our school. Now the residential schools, you had to be educable in order to attend.
Okay.
Okay? When mainstreaming hit, public schools pulled kids back, even though they were doing very well with us because they needed so many body count to get funding.
Yeah.
And now the other institutions were being emptied. Anybody under 21 out in Ohio were sent back to the public schools, and they said, oh, this one's blind, let's send them down to the school for the blind.
Okay.
So now we had these severely handicapped kids that were non-educable, and blindness was the least of their disabilities.
Got you.
And it was just destroying the program.
Yeah.
And so I said I've had enough and went back to the university, finished my last year of residency.
Okay.
Went through sat for all of the 3 days of exams and all the oral exams, and left with just the dissertation to complete.
Okay.
And my advisor said, stick around a year and get the dissertation. I said, no, I got this great job offer in Detroit, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And I never got back to get the dissertation. And that's one of my major regrets, that I didn't finish up that little.
Well, you did a lot.
We did. And then we did wonderful things at that agency in Detroit, the Greater Detroit Society for the Blind.
Okay.
Dramatically enhanced their fundraising, we did summer programming for kids, which was really great. You know, a lot of orientation mobility, a lot of independent living skills,
Yeah.
part-time job experiences, so kids were getting that. The two big things that we were finding that blind kids in the public schools never had a date, never had a part-time job.
Yeah.
And it's so critical for growing up.
Yes.
But independent living skills, we cannot undersell that.
Yeah.
We work so hard with our kindergarten kids, teaching them, turn to people's voices.
Okay.
Get your chins up, you know, smile,
All right.
get your eyes open.
Yeah.
Those social skills are absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And so I was so fortunate to have been exposed to that early, and you know, the technology that has come along has
Yes.
just been phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got more power in our iPhones now than we can
You're right.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's even, you know,
Yeah.
a setting that says accessibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Before we end, I'd like to ask you, in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges for someone who has a visual impairment
Well, we
today?
just touched on them briefly.
Yeah.
It's the communication skills.
Okay.
So it's learning the technology,
Yep.
and it's not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Independent mobility skills, and of course we've got white canes, and I've got a leader dog here at my feet, and he's my third one.
Yeah.
So when I reached that point where I couldn't see those white lines to cross those big wide streets with my white cane in Detroit, that's when I decided to go for the dogs. And I wish I'd have made the change 25 years earlier.
Right. Right.
Because you know, he's an obstacle avoidance tool, whereas the white cane is what I refer to as a bump and run tool.
Yeah.
You bump into it and find it. But that's also what I call driver's ed for the dog,
Got you.
because that's where you learn directions, compass headings, route memory. And if you haven't got those skills, the dog will only get you in trouble in a big hurry.
Yeah.
But those independent living skills,
Yeah.
those social skills are so critical.
Yes.
You know, when you go in and apply for a job and you got your chin down on your chest and you got your eyes closed, it's going to be real hard to sell that employer that you're really in tune and capable to do the job.
These are a lot of things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
most people don't
Yeah.
even think about.
But the
The small
technology
details.
is continuing to move.
Yeah.
Just within the last couple of years now, we now have services that tie into your phone. You put on a pair of spectacles that have a camera and little bone induction speakers so it doesn't block your hearing.
Yeah.
Now, your phone, you can hit the service number, and now you can talk to a sighted person who's looking through the camera
Wow.
and telling you exactly what you're approaching, or if you have to have something read, they can tell you, what the obstacles are.
Sounds like a robotic
Exactly.
sight dog.
Exactly.
Wow.
And now several of the major airports are subscribing to that service, so that if anybody has that technology, they can turn that on, and now a sighted person can walk them through the airports and find restaurants and restrooms and all of the essential
That's amazing.
stuff. Yeah, it's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
But it's even going to get better.
Yeah.
I mean, right here in Michigan, all of the talk about, self-driving cars.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Get me one that I can get in and say, take me to such and such an address.
Right.
and it'll get you there safely, and then the dog can finish the job.
Right.
Yeah. But even more importantly, I want the self-flying drone
Yep.
that will
And
get
that's
you
coming.
up and over all of the obstacles
Yeah.
and land you in the parking lot. And
We
then
all
go
want
from there.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the technology that's coming is just amazing. And,
Yeah.
and it gets better and better and cheaper and cheaper. And you know, the initial stuff, you go, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. But what it does for you is provide independence and employability.
And you've seen the whole spectrum
Oh gosh, yes.
from, what was it, talking books?
Talking books on long play records, and most people today don't even remember what a long play record was.
Right, yeah.
Yes. And now you can go right on the internet, go to the National Library Service, download books, and put them on your portable talking book machine, and now I carry books. I do 2 to 3 books a week.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big reader.
And it has a speed increaser, so I can read about 30% faster than it was recorded at.
Wow.
So it really, but it's speed listening, and that was one of the skills we learned at the School for the Blind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a career you've had. And you're doing so well today. And
Well,
your
even
dog
in,
is,
even in retirement,
Yeah.
Leader Dog calls me on a regular basis.
Okay.
I've been a graduate field representative now for 22 years. So even when I was working full time, they
Sure.
would call and say, would you like to take a weekend trip? And I'd say, where? And I've never said no.
Wow.
So I've been in 34 states, including Alaska. I've been to most of the Canadian provinces. I've been to Puerto Rico.
okay.
I've now logged 843 flights with
Wow.
a leader dog.
And this was for awareness?
This is for awareness, it's for fundraising, so I go out and represent the school at Lions Club conventions.
Okay.
They're big, they helped found, it was Lions Clubs here in Michigan that founded Leader Dog, and so they're huge supporters of programs for the blind and visually impaired, dating clear back to 1925 when Helen Keller challenged them to become Knights for the Blind.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
It's great fun.
Yeah.
It really is great.
Yeah,
fun.
I knew you were active in
Yeah.
the Lions.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in today. It's been fascinating getting to know you. And as you can see, Carroll could write an excellent biography or a how-to manual on succeeding in spite of being blind. His dedication, determination, and true grit in first getting a quality education for himself and then coming full circle to a career as an educator and advocate, it's no doubt he has made an enormous impact on the lives of many people with visual impairments along the way. I'd like to thank Carroll again for sharing his journey with us. And as always, I thank you, our viewers, for tuning in to Ann Arbor Inclusive. For the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues, I'm Tom Hoatland. We hope to see you next time on Ann Arbor Inclusive. Thanks.